There is one terrifying secret heaven desperately hides. An angel committed the ultimate, unthinkable treason, not by fighting God, but by walking into the fires of hell to save the devil. This forbidden story will shatter everything you know about love. Imagine a sin so unthinkable, so profoundly disruptive, that even the angels themselves refuse to whisper of it in the shadowed corridors of eternity. Deep within the dust-covered apocryphal archives of celestial history lies a terrifying and beautiful secret. It is the story of an entity of absolute, blinding light who committed the ultimate act of treason within a realm of flawless perfection. He did not draw a flaming sword against the Creator. He did not march alongside the dark, rebellious legions of the damned. His crime was far more dangerous, and it shatters every preconceived notion we hold about divine justice. He stood at the edge of paradise, looked down into the agonizing fires of the abyss, saw the devil burning in the ruin of his own pride, and he did the impossible. He hesitated. He actually tried to save the one who had chosen to be eternally lost. At Bible Tales US 07 welcomes you to a journey into the darkest, most heartbreakingly beautiful corners of the divine. If you find your mind captivated by mysteries that challenge everything you thought you knew about grace, justice, and the unimaginable cost of love, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support is the very heartbeat that empowers us to keep unearthing these profound celestial stories. Hit the like button, turn on the notification bell, and let us walk together into the forgotten spaces between heaven and the endless dark. To truly comprehend the magnitude of this single angel's choice, you must first strip away your human understanding of heaven. In the celestial kingdom, obedience is not merely a matter of loyalty or servitude. It is the fundamental gravity that holds the cosmos together. In a realm of absolute, unwavering perfection, every wingbeat, every thought, and every breath is perfectly synchronized with the will of the Creator. To step out of that rhythm is to introduce a catastrophic chaos into a flawless symphony. Because of this terrifying purity, a love that is misplaced, even if it is birthed from the deepest, most compassionate depths of a holy heart, can be judged as the ultimate defiance. The war in heaven had just ended, concluding in a display of divine wrath so blinding, so terrifyingly absolute, that it left the very stars trembling in their cosmic orbits. The great rebellion had been utterly crushed. Unwavering justice had been served. The deafening echoes of clashing celestial steel and the defiant roars of prideful spirits had faded away, leaving behind a silence that was not peaceful. It was shocking. It was the cosmic trauma of an amputated limb. A full third of the heavenly host had been violently torn away, cast down, and swallowed by a suffocating fire that was never originally meant for angelic beings. In the aftermath, every remaining angel had taken their rightful place. Those who had remained loyal to the throne stood in strictly disciplined ranks beneath the unyielding light of the Creator. Their wings were folded, their faces hardened with a divine, terrifying resolve. Order had been restored to the universe. The cosmic scales were balanced once more, and the victorious choirs began to swell in a triumphant hymn of unquestioning praise. Yet, in that profound, ringing silence beneath the song, there was one who did not move to rejoin his brethren. A single angel stood entirely alone at the very precipice of heaven's gates. While his brothers and sisters raised their voices in victory, the notes felt heavy and agonizingly wrong to him. He stared down past the horizon of eternity, watching as the radiant beings he had once called friends, the ones he had sung beside since the very dawn of creation, were torn from their glory, screaming as they vanished into the endless dark. For this lone angel, divine justice did not feel like a warm, comforting blanket. It did not feel like the illuminating light of truth. It felt like a cataclysmic, soul-crushing loss. Slowly, his hands began to tremble. It was not out of a fear of the Creator's immense power, nor was it a terror of the looming abyss. His hands trembled because, for the first time in the recorded history of immortal beings, an angelic heart was breaking. Down in the chaotic smoke and ruin of the pit, he squinted through the cosmic ash and thought he saw a flicker of the breathtaking light that used to be. He saw Lucifer, the morning star, once the most radiant and beloved of them all, now burning in the agonizing consequences of his own pride. Suddenly, a voice thundered through the celestial sky, shaking the foundational pillars of paradise. "It is finished." The voice of God was final, unshaken, and absolute. But as the heavenly choirs swelled in agreement, this single angel hesitated, his spirit caught in the devastating space between unwavering obedience and a tragically relentless love. Standing at the very edge of that cosmic devastation, the final echo of the Creator's decree still ringing in his ears, this angel made a choice that fractured the very foundations of his eternal existence. He did not turn back toward the emerald gates, nor did he bow his head in the synchronized submission that the heavenly laws required. Instead, he folded his radiant wings tight against his back, took one last lingering look at the blinding perfection of the home he had known since the genesis of time, and he stepped off the precipice. It was not a violent, warring charge into the depths, but a slow, sorrowful descent into a realm entirely devoid of grace. As a human telling you this story, I cannot help but shudder at the sheer, terrifying isolation of that moment. We are taught to view the spiritual realm in absolutes: good and evil, light and dark, obedience and rebellion. But here was a creature of pure light, deliberately sinking into the sulphurous shadows, driven not by malice, but by an unbearable, overflowing empathy. As he fell away from the boundaries of paradise, the absolute music of the heavenly spheres began to fade, replaced by a chaotic, deafening cacophony of wailing spirits and grinding stone. The atmosphere of the abyss was thick, suffocating, and heavy with the scent of burning ambition and rot. For an immortal being forged in the cool, flawless breath of the divine, the heat of the pit must have been a physical and spiritual agony beyond our comprehension. His pristine garments, woven from the very fabric of starlight, began to singe and darken with the cosmic ash of fallen stars. Yet, he did not summon his flaming sword to defend himself against the darkness. He opened his hands, walking defenseless through the ruins of shattered thrones and broken angelic armor. He was searching through the smoke, his eyes desperate and wide, looking for the architect of this misery. The shadows twisted around him, mocking his purity, whispering the very doubts that had brought a third of the angels to their doom. The demons that had only moments ago been his brothers hissed from the crevices of the dark, bewildered by the sight of a loyalist wandering their prison. But he ignored their venom. He pressed deeper into the agonizing fires, descending to the very lowest tier of the ruin, driven by a stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, the final judgment was not as absolute as it seemed. He believed, with a tragic innocence, that if he could just reach Lucifer, if he could just remind the morning star of the warmth of the Creator's love, he could pull him back from the brink of eternal damnation. It is a beautiful, deeply human flaw projected onto a divine being. The desperate belief that love alone is enough to save someone who is hell-bent on their own destruction. He walked into the fire, a lone beacon of unauthorized mercy, unaware that some darkness simply cannot be illuminated. Plunging through the suffocating layers of ash and despair, his fading celestial light finally fell upon the twisted, smoldering silhouette of the brother he had sacrificed paradise to reach. There, at the epicenter of the destruction, sat Lucifer. The former bearer of light was a terrifying sight to behold, his once magnificent wings charred to the bone, his radiant countenance warped by an endless, consuming rage. The agony of the fall was etched into his very being, yet, wrapped tightly around his broken form, was an impenetrable cloak of pride. The visiting angel stopped, his heart shattering all over again. I try to put myself in his place, standing before someone I loved so deeply, seeing them reduced to a monstrous reflection of their former glory, and knowing I was risking my own soul just to speak to them. The loyal angel did not preach. He did not scold or demand repentance. Slowly, with tears of liquid light streaming down his ash-stained face, he simply extended his hand toward the fallen prince. It was an offer that defied the fundamental laws of the universe. It was an unauthorized bridge built across the great gulf fixed between heaven and hell, forged entirely out of a reckless, desperate grace. "Come back," he whispered, his voice trembling but cutting through the roaring flames of the pit. "Take my hand. We will beg for mercy together. I will stand with you before the throne." For a fleeting, breathless fraction of a second, the fires of the abyss seemed to quiet. Lucifer looked up, his blazing eyes locking onto the outstretched hand of his former comrade. In that agonizing pause, the visiting angel saw a flicker of the old morning star, a ghost of the majestic, brilliant brother who had once led the choirs of heaven. It was a glimmer of profound sorrow, a silent acknowledgement of the paradise he had thrown away forever. But salvation is not merely a matter of being rescued. It requires the surrender of the ego, the humbling of the self before a higher power. And this was a price the devil could not and would not pay. The vulnerability in Lucifer's eyes hardened into cold, crystalline hatred. To take that hand meant admitting defeat. It meant bowing to the Creator who had cast him down. With a cruel, mocking laugh that shook the foundations of the underworld, Lucifer slapped the angelic hand away. "I would rather burn as a king in this ash," he spat, his voice dripping with venom, "than serve as a slave in your suffocating light." The physical strike burned the loyal angel's flesh, but the rejection destroyed his spirit. It is the most devastating realization anyone can endure, mortal or immortal. You cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. The loyal angel stood paralyzed in the smoke, his hand still suspended in the empty air, realizing too late that his immense, rule-breaking love was entirely powerless against the fortress of another's willful pride. As the fallen morning star turned his back, retreating willingly into the blinding heat of his own ruin, the lone angel stood in the darkness and finally understood the terrifying gravity of his treason. He withdrew his trembling, burned hand and slowly turned his gaze upward toward the distant, infinitesimal pinprick of light that was the gateway to heaven. The journey back was agonizing. With his wings scorched by the fires of hell and his spirit weighed down by a sorrow he was never designed to carry, he crawled out of the abyss. But when he finally reached the celestial shores, the emerald gates did not swing open to welcome him. The choirs were silent. The terrifying machinery of divine justice had already recognized an anomaly in the perfect code of the cosmos. He had not raised a sword against the Creator, nor had he sought power or glory. Yet in his desperate attempt to bestow mercy where God had declared judgment, he had placed his own will above the sovereign decree of the Almighty. Standing before the sealed gates, he was met by the towering figure of Michael, the Archangel of Justice, whose flaming sword cast a long, unforgiving shadow across the threshold. The heartbreak in this encounter is something that stays with me every time I think about this lore. Michael did not look upon his brother with the wrath he had reserved for the rebels. He looked upon him with a profound, weeping sorrow. In a realm of absolute perfection, the law cannot bend, not even for love. By stepping into the abyss, by extending a hand to the condemned after the final verdict had been struck, the angel had polluted his own holiness. He had become a rebel of a different, more tragic kind. He had made an idol of his own empathy. The verdict was silent, but it was absolute. The angel was stripped of his heavenly citizenship. But because his crime was born of love rather than malice, he was not cast into the burning pit with the demons. Instead, he was exiled to the vast, empty expanse of the cosmos, the cold, silent void between the stars. He became a wanderer, an entity of fading light trapped in eternal, solitary confinement. He could look up and see the warm, glorious glow of a paradise he could never re-enter, and he could look down and see the agonizing fires of a hell he refused to join. His punishment was the heavy, unbroken silence of isolation. He had risked everything for a grace that was rejected, and in return, he lost the very perfection he had sought to share. The Creator, it is said in these forbidden texts, wept a single tear for him, a tear that crystallized into a lone comet that endlessly orbits the universe, a silent memorial to the angel who loved too much to obey. Condemned to wander the twilight spaces between a heaven he can no longer enter and a hell he refuses to join, this exiled spirit forces us to question the very nature of our own morality. When I look at this ancient, hidden fragment of celestial history, I don't just see a fantasy about winged beings in the sky. I see a devastating mirror held up to the human condition. We spend our lives deeply conditioned to believe that love is the ultimate virtue, the highest law that supersedes all others. We are told that empathy is our saving grace, and that compassion is what makes us truly divine. Yet this story drags us into the terrifying, morally gray waters where love and justice collide and destroy one another. It forces us to ask a question that most of us are too afraid to voice. Is it possible for love to be wrong? Can compassion be a sin if it defies the necessary boundaries of justice? This angel's tragedy is not that he was evil, but that he was dangerously, recklessly good. He represents the painful reality that we as humans face when we love the broken, the toxic, and the unrepentant people in our lives. How many of us have stood at the edge of someone else's personal hell, reached into the flames, and burned ourselves trying to save a person who has already chosen the fire? We sacrifice our peace, our boundaries, and sometimes our own sanity, mistakenly believing that the purity of our intentions can rewrite the consequences of their actions. The wandering angel teaches us the harsh, unyielding truth that unconditional love is not a magic spell that fixes the world. Sometimes, it is the very thing that breaks the lover. His eternal exile in the cosmic void is a haunting reminder that true justice is cold, objective, and entirely unmoved by sentimentality. The Creator's universe requires order to survive, and empathy without boundaries is simply chaos in a beautiful disguise. But even knowing this, even understanding the absolute necessity of the divine law, my heart still aches for the angel in the dark. I cannot help but revere him. He chose the pain of empathy over the comfort of a sterile, unquestioning obedience. He proves that the most beautiful acts of love are often the ones that cost us everything. As we close this chapter of hidden celestial lore, I ask you to reflect on the boundaries of your own grace. Where do you draw the line between saving someone else and destroying yourself? If this story resonated with you, if it sparked a thought or a feeling in the quiet spaces of your mind, please subscribe to Bible Tales US 07. Hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know, would you have reached into the fire? Thank you for walking through the shadows with us, and we will see you in the next exploration of the divine unknown. The tragic tale of the exiled angel leaves us with a haunting realization about the dual nature of love and justice. This celestial being did not fall because of pride, greed, or a thirst for power, but because his empathy blinded him to the immutable laws of the cosmos. In his desperate attempt to save a brother who had already embraced the darkness, he shattered the very order he was created to uphold. He became a casualty of his own boundless compassion, exiled to the silent, lonely void between the stars, a permanent monument to the devastating cost of unauthorized grace. This story serves as a profound mirror, reflecting our own human struggles with devotion and boundaries. We are often taught that love should be limitless, yet this hidden lore illustrates the dangerous chaos that ensues when compassion overrides consequence. The angel's eternal wandering is a testament to the tragic reality that some souls cannot be rescued, no matter how pure the intentions of the Savior. It is a sobering reminder that empathy, when stripped of wisdom and boundaries, does not mend the broken. It merely drags the healer down into the ashes alongside them. True grace requires an understanding of when to extend a hand and when to let go, recognizing that even divine love cannot override the sovereign will of another's choice. The deepest lesson we can draw from this forgotten lore is that unconditional love does not mean unconditional access, nor does it require self-destruction. Empathy is a beautiful, divine trait, but without firm boundaries, it becomes a vehicle for our own ruin. You cannot save someone who is actively committed to their own destruction, and trying to do so will only pull you into their personal abyss. In your daily life, you must learn to balance compassion with wisdom. If you find yourself constantly drained, sacrificing your peace, your mental health, or your moral center to fix a toxic partner, a destructive family member, or an unrepentant friend, you must recognize when to step back. Loving someone deeply does not mean you are obligated to burn in their fire. Apply this by setting healthy, unapologetic boundaries. Offer your support and kindness, but know exactly when to withdraw your hand. Protect your own light and accept the hard truth that letting someone face the consequences of their own choices is sometimes the most necessary form of love. Have you ever had to step back and let go of someone you cared about because trying to save them was hurting you? We would love to hear your perspective. Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below so our community can read, reflect, and find strength in each other's journeys. If this message resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Your subscription gives us the motivation to keep uncovering and sharing these deep, meaningful stories with you.